In the golden glow of a Virginia sunrise, Margaret Sullivan, a spry 68-year-old with a laugh that could light up Cedar Grove, stood in her cozy kitchen, staring at a spoon on the tile floor. It had slipped from her hand while she stirred her morning oatmeal, and now it lay there like a tiny gauntlet thrown down by time. Her knees, once nimble enough to chase grandkids through her rose garden, felt unsteady at the thought of bending down. "Is this it?" she wondered, her heart sinking. "Am I losing the life I love?" At 68, Margaret wasn't ready to swap her days of tending prize-winning roses, twirling at the community dance hall, or hosting potlucks for her neighbors, Clara from Mexico, James from the book club, for a quieter, frailer existence. That spoon wasn't just a utensil, it was a wake-up call. Margaret had always prided herself on her independence. She'd spent decades building a life full of color, her garden bursting with blooms, her evenings filled with laughter and stories. But lately, small things had started to shift. Getting up from her favorite armchair required a push from her hands. Stairs left her puffing. And now, this spoon. She pictured her mother, who'd slowed down in her 70s, relying on others for simple tasks. "Not me," Margaret vowed. "I'm not ready to fade." Determined to reclaim her spark, Margaret confided in Clara, a retired nurse who'd moved to Cedar Grove from Guadalajara. Over tea, Clara shared a secret that lit a fire in Margaret's heart. Aging well isn't just luck or genes. It's about small, everyday abilities that science says can add years to your life. "Start with this," Clara said. "Can you stand up from a chair without using your hands?" Margaret tried it that evening, crossing her arms and pushing up from her dining chair. She wobbled, nearly toppling, and had to grab the table. "That's your first clue," Clara explained. "A 2018 Harvard study found that rising from a chair without help predicts lower fall risk and a longer, healthier life. It's about leg strength and balance." Margaret wasn't one to back down. She started small, doing 5 squats each morning while brushing her teeth, feeling her thighs protest at first but grow stronger each day. She practiced sitting and standing without her hands, slow and steady, imagining herself gliding up like she did in her dancing days. Within weeks, she could rise from her armchair with ease, no push needed. The spoon incident became a turning point. Picking it up one day, she bent down confidently, her knees steady, and smiled. "I've got this," she thought. Clara's words echoed. There were 7 more abilities, simple, powerful signs of thriving, that could keep Margaret vibrant well into her 80s, maybe even 100. Each one was a step toward the life she cherished, dancing, gardening, living on her terms. As Margaret looked out at her roses, their petals catching the morning light, she felt a surge of hope. This was just the beginning of her journey to rediscover what her body and spirit could do. Every evening, as the sun dipped low over Cedar Grove's oak-lined park, Margaret Sullivan laced up her sneakers for her daily walk. At 68, she cherished these strolls, waving to neighbors, listening to birds, and letting her mind wander among memories of dance floors and garden parties. But one crisp autumn evening, as she passed the playground where her grandkids squealed, a pang of unease hit her. She'd slowed down. Her once purposeful stride had turned into a shuffle, and by the time she reached the park's far bench, her breath came in short puffs. When did this happen, she wondered, picturing herself stuck on the sidelines while her friends marched on. Margaret wasn't ready to let her walks or her vitality slip away. The realization stung. Margaret had always been the one to keep up, whether racing her grandson to the ice cream truck or leading the community garden cleanup. But now her pace betrayed her. She remembered her father, who'd stopped walking in his 70s, his world shrinking to a single armchair. "Not me," she resolved, her rose gardener's grit kicking in. She needed answers, and she knew just who to ask. Her friend James, a retired coach who'd coached Cedar Grove's youth baseball team for decades. Over coffee at the local diner, James leaned forward, his eyes twinkling. "It's not just about walking, Margaret. It's about how fast. The CDC says a brisk pace can add years to your life, boosting your heart and lungs." He explained that a 2020 study found faster walkers have lower risks of heart disease and sharper memories. "Try this," he said. "Walk like you're late for a sale at the farmer's market." Margaret laughed, picturing herself hustling for the last pint of strawberries. That evening, she tested it, picking up her pace for 10 feet across the park, imagining the market's bustle. Her chest tightened at first, but she kept at it, pushing a little faster each day. Margaret started timing her walks, aiming to cover the park loop quicker. She stood taller, swung her arms, and focused on steady breaths. Within weeks, she was striding like she owned the park, her lungs strong, her steps sure. One evening, as she passed the playground, her grandson shouted, "Go, Grandma!" She grinned, feeling years lighter. James's words stuck. A brisk walk wasn't just exercise. It was a lifeline to her health, her independence, and her joy. But Margaret's journey wasn't over. As she rounded the park, she noticed something else. Her balance felt off when she stepped over a tree root. Another sign, another challenge. James had hinted at 7 more abilities that could keep her thriving, each one a step toward the vibrant life she loved. With her walks now strong, Margaret was ready to tackle the next hurdle, eager to see what her body could still do. Under the twinkling lights of Cedar Grove's community center, Margaret Sullivan swayed to a slow jazz tune, her sneakers gliding across the polished floor. At 68, she lived for these Saturday dance nights, where laughter and music knit her neighbors together. Fresh off her walking triumph in the park, she felt stronger, her strides bold. But as she spun with Rosa, her friend from Cuba whose salsa moves turned heads, Margaret's foot caught a slick spot. She stumbled, arms flailing, and grabbed Rosa's shoulder to steady herself. The room spun on, but her heart sank. What if I'd fallen, she thought, picturing a hospital bed or worse, missing these dances forever. At her age, a fall could steal everything: her roses, her grandkids' giggles, her independence. Margaret's fear lingered. She'd seen friends, spry in their 60s, slow down after stumbles, their confidence bruised as much as their bodies. Her own balance, she realized, wasn't what it used to be. Last week, stepping over a tree root in the park, she'd wobbled, her heart racing. "I can't let this stop me," she vowed, her gardener's stubbornness flaring. She needed guidance, and Rosa, who danced like she was 40, was the one to ask. Over lemonade after the dance, Rosa's eyes sparkled. "Balance is your anchor, Margaret. It keeps you moving, free." She shared a gem. A 2021 British Medical Journal study found that standing on one foot for 10 seconds predicts lower fall risk and longer life. It's your body's orchestra. Muscles, eyes, ears, playing in sync, Rosa said. She challenged Margaret to try it. Lift one foot, hold steady. Margaret stood, arms out, and wobbled after 3 seconds, giggling as she grabbed a chair. "Keep practicing," Rosa urged. "It's like learning a new step." Margaret took it to heart. Each morning, while watering her roses, she lifted one foot, aiming for 10 seconds. At first, she swayed like a sapling in a storm, but she held the fence for support, counting breaths. She tried again at the kitchen sink, then brushing her teeth, feeling her ankles strengthen, her focus sharpen. By week's end, she could balance for 12 seconds, steady as an oak. At the next dance, she twirled with Rosa, her steps sure, no fear of slipping. The crowd clapped, and Margaret beamed, feeling invincible. Rosa's challenge had unlocked more than balance. It had given Margaret courage. But as she left the dance hall, she realized another hurdle loomed. Playing on the floor with her grandkids felt daunting. Could she get down and back up? Rosa's words echoed. There were more secrets to thriving, each a step toward the life Margaret cherished. With balance mastered, she was ready to face the next. Have you tried balancing like Margaret? Maybe while cooking or gardening? Share your story below. It might spark someone else's courage. In the cozy glow of her Cedar Grove living room, Margaret Sullivan, now 68 and brimming with newfound confidence, watched her 6-year-old grandson, Liam, sprawl across the rug, his toy trains zooming through an imaginary town. His giggles filled the air, but when he tugged her hand, pleading, "Grandma, play with me," Margaret hesitated. Getting down to the floor felt like a leap into the unknown. Her knees, though stronger from squats and walks, hadn't tackled that move in years. Last time she tried at a picnic, she'd struggled to stand, clutching a table for support. The memory stung. She pictured herself stuck, unable to join Liam's world of trains and stories. At her age, losing that freedom could mean missing the heart of her family's joy. But Margaret wasn't one to let fear win, not after mastering her chair rises, brisk walks, and one-footed balance. She'd come too far to back down. Margaret wanted to keep up with Liam, to share his laughter and build memories, not watch from a chair. Her roses bloomed through stubborn care, and so would she. She thought of her friend Clara, the nurse who'd sparked her journey in their talks about staying vibrant. Clara had mentioned another key to thriving, the ability to get down to the floor and back up without help. "It's your ticket to independence," Clara had said over a potluck, citing a 2014 study from the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology. The research showed that those who could lower and rise easily had fewer mobility issues and lived longer, healthier lives. "It's about your legs, core, and grit," Clara added, her eyes warm with encouragement. Margaret decided to try. She started in her bedroom, using a chair for support, slowly lowering to one knee, then both, like easing into a garden bed. The first attempts were shaky. Her thighs quaked, and she grabbed the chair to stand. But she kept at it, practicing daily, squatting to pick up a book, kneeling to tie her shoes, standing without a crutch. She stretched her hips each morning, feeling her joints loosen. Liam became her cheerleader, clapping when she knelt to join his train tracks. "You're strong, Grandma," he squealed. Within a month, Margaret could sit cross-legged on the rug and pop back up, smooth as a daisy, springing upright. One afternoon, she and Liam built a sprawling train city, her laughter mingling with his as they raced locomotives. She stood without a wobble, her heart soaring. That victory felt like reclaiming youth. But Margaret knew more challenges lay ahead. At the market, she'd noticed her arms straining under a grocery bag's weight. Could she carry life's loads with ease? Clara's list of thriving secrets held more answers. And Margaret, now playing freely with Liam, was eager to dig deeper, her spirit as bright as her garden's blooms. The Cedar Grove Farmers Market buzzed with life on a crisp Saturday morning, its stalls overflowing with apples, fresh bread, and jars of golden honey. Margaret Sullivan, 68 and glowing with the triumphs of her journey, wove through the crowd, her reusable tote slung over her shoulder. She'd conquered rising from chairs, striding through parks, balancing like a dancer, and playing on the floor with her grandson, Liam. But as she reached for a hefty bag of potatoes, her arms quivered under the weight. By the time she added a jug of cider, her shoulders ached, and she had to pause, setting the bag down. At home, climbing the stairs to her attic studio, where she painted vibrant landscapes, left her breathless, gripping the railing. "I'm stronger now," she thought, puzzled. "Why is this so hard?" Margaret wasn't ready to let groceries or stairs slow her down, not when her life brimmed with painting, market trips, and community potlucks. The struggle gnawed at her. She pictured her neighbor, Tom, who'd stopped carrying his own groceries after a back injury, relying on deliveries. Margaret cherished her independence, hauling her market finds, climbing to her easel, living without limits. Her roses didn't bloom without effort, and neither would her strength. She turned to James, the retired coach who'd guided her walking success, meeting him at the diner where locals swapped stories. "It's about more than legs," James said, sipping coffee. "Your arms and endurance matter too." He shared two keys to thriving: carrying a full load without strain and climbing stairs without stopping. A 2018 Lancet study says strong grip and arm strength predict longer life, he explained. And the American Heart Association's 2020 report shows stair climbing tests your heart's power. Both keep you free. Margaret took it as a challenge. She started small, lifting light hand weights while watching the news, squeezing a stress ball to build her grip. At the market, she practiced carrying her tote a bit longer each week, standing tall, breathing steady. For stairs, she tackled the 12 steps to her attic daily, slow at first, pausing if needed. She focused on posture, letting her legs push her up like pistons. Her friend Rosa, the dancer, joined her for stair walks at the community center, their laughter echoing. "You're a machine," Rosa teased. Within weeks, Margaret hoisted her market bags with ease, her arms steady as she loaded her car. Climbing to her studio, she glided up without a pause, her breath even, her heart strong. One day, she carried a canvas downstairs for a local show, feeling like she could conquer anything. Her victories, Groceries, stairs, paintings lit a fire. But Margaret sensed more to learn. At a book club, she noticed a friend forgetting names and her own sleep felt restless. Were her mind and rest as strong as her body? James's list held two final secrets, and Margaret, now carrying life's loads with pride, was ready to uncover them. In the soft light of Cedar Grove's library, Margaret Sullivan, now 68 and radiating vitality, settled into her favorite armchair at the weekly book club. The room hummed with chatter as friends debated the latest mystery novel, their voices weaving stories from Virginia to distant shores. Margaret, who'd mastered rising from chairs, striding parks, balancing in dance halls, playing on floors, and carrying market loads, felt unstoppable. But when her friend Ellen struggled to recall a character's name, pausing mid-sentence, Margaret's heart skipped. Her own memory was sharp. She could recount Liam's train adventures or Rosa's salsa tips. But what about tomorrow? And at night she woke tossing, her mind racing, mornings heavy with fatigue. At her age, a foggy mind or sleepless nights could dim the life she loved. Painting landscapes, debating books, cherishing her grandkids. Margaret wasn't ready to lose her clarity or rest. The thought lingered like a shadow. She'd seen her uncle, once a quick-witted storyteller, fade into forgetfulness, his world shrinking. And her own groggy days sapped her spark. Her roses thrived on care, and so must her mind and sleep. She sought Clara, the nurse who'd ignited her journey, at a potluck where neighbors shared tamales and apple pie. "Your brain and rest are your roots," Clara said, her voice warm. "Keep them strong and you'll thrive." She shared two final secrets, a sharp memory and restful sleep. A 2019 neurology study shows active minds, reading, puzzling, connecting, cut dementia risk, Clara explained. And a 2022 Journal of Sleep Research study links deep sleep to lower heart disease and stronger immunity. Margaret embraced the challenge. She dove into mysteries, solved crosswords with Liam, and learned photography, snapping her roses' dew-kissed petals. At book club, she led discussions, swapping tales with Aisha, whose Moroccan stories enriched their circle. Her memory stayed razor-sharp. She recalled Aisha's recipes days later. For sleep, Margaret dimmed her evenings, trading late TV for chamomile tea in a cool, dark bedroom. She set a 10 p.m. bedtime, her routine as steady as her garden's care. Within weeks, she slept soundly, waking at dawn refreshed, her mind clear, her energy soaring. One morning, she painted a sunrise over Cedar Grove, her brush steady, her heart full. Liam hugged her, saying, "Grandma, you're the best." She laughed, feeling decades younger. Margaret's journey from a fallen spoon to restful dawns had transformed her. She danced, painted, played, and lived with joy, her body and mind vibrant. Clara's 8 secrets, backed by science, were her guide. Small steps, big rewards. As she tended her roses, their blooms mirroring her strength, Margaret knew she wasn't just aging, she was thriving, maybe to 100. What's one step you'll take today? Reading a book, trying a nap, or sharing a story? Tell us below. Your spark could light someone else's path.